Thank you for joining us this evening. So this evening we're going to be in Genesis 12 verses 1 through 7, and we're going to be talking about just allowing God to work as he sees fit in your life. So Genesis 12 starts out and says, "Now the Lord hath said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse them that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And unto the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the place of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there buildeth he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him." In verse 1, God says, Get thee out of thy country and unto the land that I will show thee. See, Abram had full faith in God, and he believed that God knew exactly what he was doing. So Abram had no need to question God when he said to go. And Abram followed God until they came to verse 7, and God told Abram this is the land that he had for him and his family. So while we're in our lives now looking at the future, we need to have this same faith in God and trust that he knows exactly what he's doing. We need to go when he says to go, and we need to stop when he says to stop. I know a lot of us don't know what the next step is in our lives. Some of us desire a different job. Some of us may desire to retire. Some of us may be looking to stay exactly right where we're at now. And that may be God's will for us, or it may not be. God may have something else planned for us. But many times we try to pave our own path and we don't wait on God. So as you look towards those changes, it's normal to want to know how things are going to turn out. But I want to encourage you, don't rush it. Because God sees the big picture, and if you're submissive to his will, just as Abram was, then he'll put you in the right place at the right time, and he'll use you in the way that he sees fit, not in the way that you think that you should be used. So, God didn't just lead Abram to the land at some random point in time. God had a master plan. God moved him there in his timing. See, God sees the future that he holds for each and every one of us. He knows the right time for us to move to a certain college. He knows the right time for us to move to a certain job. He knew this was the perfect timing to send COVID-19. So God has this all mapped out, and we don't need to question his timing. Psalms 31:14 and 15 says, But I trust in thee, O Lord, I said, Thou art my God. My times are in thy hands. Deliver me from the hands of mine enemies and from them that persecute me. Psalms 27:14 says, Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. So as you're looking towards the next step in your life, we need to be patiently waiting on God. He'll open the right doors and he'll close the wrong doors. Sometimes God reveals our next step to us though. But then he makes us wait before we go through that door. And as humans, we don't like to wait. So we try to rush through, we try to push that door down, we try to get that promotion on our own, or whatever it may be. A prime example of this is missionaries. When God shows them the country where he wants them to go, they tend to rush through deputation and they don't gain the full support they need and end up having problems later on. But sometimes God causes this process to take longer. Whether he's causing you to wait longer before you get that promotion, whether it is a missionary gaining support and you're taking longer to get the support you need, whatever it may be. God has reasons for everything. And we may not see those reasons at first. For example, God may have caused some missionaries to delay their deputation because of the COVID. He knew that if they were in that certain country at this time, they would have gotten sick. And with the promotion, you may think, well, I could use the money now. But God may be teaching you something in this time now that you're working towards that you would never learn if you already had that promotion. So in order for us to know which doors God is opening and when he wants us to go through it, we need to be completely submitted to him. We need to allow him to work in his timing. When I think of a story about being submissive, I think about Genesis 22, verses 2 and 3. And that says, and he said, "Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee unto the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of." See, God didn't tell him ahead of time where they were going. And Abram rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and cleaved the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went into the place which God had told him of. See, God again didn't tell Abraham exactly where they were going at first. He just told him to go. And then after Abraham took this step in faith, that's when God showed him where they were going to end up. Then verse 9 through 13 says, And they came to the place where God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him upon the altar of wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thee anything unto him. For now I knowest thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by the thorns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. See, God didn't show Abraham what was coming next. It would have been easy for Abraham to follow God if he would have known there was going to be a ram caught in the thicket. But he didn't. He thought he was going to have to offer up his son Isaac. But see, Abraham was still submissive to God, and he still had faith that God knew exactly what he was doing. Many times we struggle to have that faith, and we fail to trust God, and we fail to trust that God will provide in his timing. God could have raised Isaac from the dead, but instead he decided to provide that lamb at just the right time. Abraham had no idea what was going to happen. He just completely followed God. And there are times in our lives when we need to follow God, even though we don't know what's ahead of us, especially in the days to come. We're living in a strange time, and no one knows exactly how things are going to go back after things start opening back up. Things are going to look different in a month or even a year from now that we're not used to. The COVID has changed the norm for us, and so we need to be prepared for that. But we need to know that God is still in control no matter what. When I graduated from college this past spring, I had no idea what was going to happen. I had about 3 different job opportunities that were offered to me, but I just felt that none of them were right. I felt like God was leading me to spend my summer in Israel instead, which seems crazy because I was spending more money than actually making any money. But God lined up everything, and he caused the whole trip to fall into place, so I decided to go. And while I was there, God started working on me and on my heart about missions. So I was like, okay, Lord, what's the next step? And then he started leading me towards Bible college. And then that's why I started back at Ambassador this past spring semester. So I truly believe that if I would have taken one of those jobs back last year, that I would have been too comfortable in that job and I wouldn't have wanted to go back to school this year. And so you just have to take that first step in the direction that God is leading, even though you have no idea what's going to happen. God will provide for you. He'll provide you with what you need and the direction you need to go, but it's only when he sees fit. So as things start to open back up and things change, just know that God has a bigger plan and he's preparing you for that plan, no matter your age or your ability. So don't give up or don't get discouraged. Just be open to whatever God has for you and don't rush it. Yet at the same time, don't prolong where God wants you to go either. If you don't take heed to where God's calling you, then you're going to miss out on a great deal and you're going to waste a lot of time. Going back to Genesis 12, when God said to Abram to go, he went. It didn't say he waited there for a little while and then went. It says he went. I don't know if any of you knew this or not, but I felt like God was calling me to missions a couple years ago, but I refused. And I even visited Ambassador right out of high school, but I decided not to go. And I didn't take heed to the calling. And now, 4.5 years later, I'm having to backtrack and to start all over. But I want to encourage you to follow God as he leads you. Right now, no matter what you're doing in your life, make God your priority. We don't want to end up like Samson, because it says in Judges 16, 29, and 30, it says, "And Samson took the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which it was borne up, and one was on the right hand, and the other was on his left. And Samson said, 'Let me die with the Philistines.' And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords, and upon all the people that were therein." And we normally stop there and we think, oh, well, Samson did something great. Even in his death, he was able to kill all these Philistines. I want you to notice the end of that verse. It says, "So the dead which he slew in his death were more than they which he slew in his life." And this is because he wasn't willing to submit to God until the very end of his life. So just allow God to work in your life now as he sees fit. And don't wait till the end of your life before you say, "Yes, Lord, I'm willing to submit now." Just allow God to lead no matter what direction and no matter when. Just follow God.